Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Friday night live draw. I'm Phil. Nice to meet you guys. Happy to have you here on this wonderful Friday night. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, alrighty. Well, it's that time again. It's that time of year, everyone. It's almost Black Friday. Yes, that's correct. You heard me right. It's almost Black Friday, the most wonderful time of the year. If you're into retail and you're into shopping and all of that wonderful stuff, this is your season of getting deals. And oh hey, Stray Kids fan is here. Hello, hi, welcome to Friday night, Stray Kids fan 101. I appreciate you being here. Love it when people are here early. Well, if you're new to my channel, if this is something you've never seen before, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Phil, and every Friday night at 9 p.m. Central, I show up here and talk about art and talk about this giant project that I'm working on. Sometimes animation students pop in and we kind of go back and forth about the projects that they're working on. And sometimes I turn my camera to the side and show you guys what I'm working on, which I'll get to that later in the episode. Don't worry. We have a whole hour ahead of us. There's no reason to rush, right? So typically in the beginning part of my show, I like to talk about what the previous week has been like and what kind of progress I've made working on New Ad Day. And if you're wondering what New Ad Day is, well, you're in luck because I'm going to tell you right now. New Ad Day is an animated short based on my comic strip series called Retail Sunshine. But New Ad Day is a 7-minute short. It is the longest cartoon, even though it's called a short. It is the longest cartoon I've ever made. It is the, what else? First Retail Sunshine cartoon to have dialogue, which is really exciting for me. I started writing it in 2020, like December of 2020. So I guess that's 5 years ago, just about 5 years ago. Wow, just about 5 years ago. Oh, this is a really weird thing for me to hear myself say. Then I started animating it in May of 2023, and I've been pretty much going straight since then, except there was a 9-month period in there where I took a break of animating so that I could work on my book that is now officially in stores that you guys can find at bookpeople.com. So if you've never read my comics and you're really curious as to what the inspiration for this animated cartoon is, the book is your best answer. So if you search my name on bookpeople.com, it'll pop right up. Or you can search Retail Sunshine. That works too. Stray Kids fan says, Stray Kids just released their new album, Do It, and it is so good. I love it so much. Wait, what? Wait, are you saying that you released an album? Or is there somebody else that you're referring to? Did you release an album? Tell me all about this, Stray Kids. Are you telling me that you have made music? I want to know all about this. That's very exciting. If it is your album, I'm gonna insist you tell me where I can find it so I can give it a listen. I would love to do that. Anyway, so this past week, hey, Sam OK is here. Happy live draw night. Hello, welcome to Sam OK. Sam OK is one of my channel members. That's why her comments get featured on the screen and why she has a little symbol next to her name. Oh, there's a band named Stray Kids. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, okay. And so they just released their album. Well, that's really cool. Well, I'm glad you really like it. So you named your YouTube profile after this band that you loved. I understand now. It's all coming together. I get it. I may not be the quickest rabbit in the pack, but I eventually crossed the finish line. Okay, so what has this last week been like? Well, let me tell you, it's been very productive. The previous week was a little bit annoying, and this week I kind of had my work cut out for me to really bring scene 53 together. I was working on scene 53 for almost 2 weeks. Almost 2 weeks. And finally finished it this week. And something about scene 53, I don't know why. I don't know what it was, but something about this scene was just giving me a hard time, and I couldn't really figure out what it was. It happens every now and then. I don't know why. I try to plan, accordingly, and try to give myself enough leeway to not hit any speed bumps. Sometimes the speed bumps happen anyway, and I've learned the coping strategy of just like keep moving forward, trust the process, realize that it's just pencil. It's a pencil drawing. If I really have to fix something, I can erase it, or I can draw a completely different drawing and replace it. So I went through and I finished scene 53, and I felt better about it than I had been feeling. But after watching it, there was still something not quite right. There was something not quite working about it, and I wasn't sure what it is. And so then I went back and I kept playing it. Like, I'll rewind a little bit, and then I'll play through it just to kind of see, like, does one scene blend into the next scene properly? And it's just something wasn't working. So then I realized what it was. Okay, I'm gonna tell you what it was. This is pretty interesting, I think, because it has to do with scene connectivity, right? So I don't personally believe that like every motion that happens on camera necessarily has to be carried into the next time the camera cuts. It doesn't always have to be done that way. Sometimes a character could be doing something off camera, and then you cut back to them and they're doing something a little bit different. Okay, but in this particular situation, here's why it wasn't working. So I have my main character there. His name is New Guy. He's standing there in the middle of the screen. The camera's kind of far back, and then so he's just like standing there. And then the next scene 53, I had him like bent over like he was picking up a box, but I had him started as bent over. Now, I thought initially I was going to show him bending over and then show him picking it up. And I didn't do it because it just felt like a lot of like I just didn't like the repetitive motion. Something about it didn't, just, I don't know. It felt like it was going to slow it down to me. So I didn't do that. So after the whole thing was done, I played it and I'm like, why isn't this working? And then I thought, yeah, it's that beginning part. It's that beginning part where he ends one scene standing like this, and he starts the next scene already bent over. Like, it doesn't really work as well as it could. So I did not add frames to the beginning of scene 53. No, I noticed that at the very end of scene 52, there was sort of like this weird pause moment where just it felt like it was hanging on the shot for too long. Now, granted, I could have just shortened that, and then that's the problem solved, right? But then I thought, no, I like the timing. I just don't like that there's nothing happening on screen. So I went back to scene 52 and I added 5 new drawings. 5 drawings that depict New Guy starting to bend over. And then as soon as he's bent over, the camera cuts, and now we're at scene 53 and he's lifting the box back up. For whatever reason, it works like a charm. And as soon as it was just 5 drawings. That's it. But those 5 drawings connected the 2 scenes. And as soon as I finished that, I was like, oh my gosh, now I actually like looking at scene 53 again. It was so funny to me how inextricably tied together those 2 scenes were. And I didn't even really realize it. Sometimes I find that you kind of have to back away from something in order to really see it a little bit better. So this was one of those times where, why didn't I catch it before when I was working on scene 52? I don't know. I don't think I was looking that far ahead. So I had to have scene 53 there in order to tell me what scene 52 needed to end like. So that it happens. It happens sometimes. Nicole Bell is here on Facebook, and she said, the Black Friday blues are creeping up. Oh, yes, they are. I'm going to tell you this, though, about Black Friday. It's really not what it used to be. Black Friday, when I was working retail back in my day, Black Friday was a real event. And look, I have my own Black Friday woes. You could say I wrote the book on it, because I did write a poem with the Retail Sunshine characters called "'Twas the Day After Turkey." And by the way, that poem, that illustrated poem, that story is in my book. So that's another reason to pick up Everything Must Go, which is the name of the book. Anyway, so Black Friday used to be this thing that we all kind of dreaded, but because there was such energy around it, and it really was an event that people got excited about, people would line up outside our store for hours. They would camp out like it was a new Star Wars movie. And we used to think, man, these people are crazy for standing outside in the cold for hours, in the wee hours of the morning, from between like 11 p.m. Thursday night and like 6 a.m. Friday morning. We just thought they were crazy. And I don't think people do that as much now as they used to. In fact, I know that they don't. Black Friday kind of got commandeered and kind of ruined by a lot of stores, in my personal opinion. And now it's like Black Friday became like a week-long event. They call it Black Friday week. Then they have Cyber Monday, and then like Giving Tuesday. It's just too much. Like, they kind of ruined it by making it be too many things. And so I kind of feel like that era is gone. I know I don't love saying that, but something I've sort of been reflecting on is, and I think I've said this on the channel before, but Retail Sunshine, I now feel like, because I was worried about whether or not I was accurately reflecting the time period that we are in, and I do try to kind of keep things feeling relevant a little bit, but there's part of me that sort of feels like it also captures an era that's like an idealized version of a time that's gone. And I don't hate that, honestly. It sort of memorializes the decade that I was in retail. For me, it sort of encapsulates it permanently in this little world of make-believe. So anyway, I wanted to go back to what I was saying about this week. So I finished scene 53, and then scene 54 is only one drawing. And so right after I finished 53, I was like, well, I'm just going to keep going. And so I finished number 54. So believe it or not, today, shortly before I came on here to talk to y'all, I started scene 55. Can you believe it? Facebook just reminded me today that 1 year ago to the day, I was just starting working on the warehouse sequence. Remember that? Now I'm well past the warehouse sequence, and I'm like kind of halfway or more into the finale sequence. So it's really wild how much animation I've been able to knock out in the past year. It's really crazy. Oh, I've got a heart from someone on Facebook. Thank you. From Nicole Bell. Thank you so much. In fact, I was looking at my storyboards, and what's interesting is when I finish the current scene I just started today, when I finish scene 55, that'll be the end of storyboard page 21, which will leave 3 pages left on my wall. That's it. I'll be down to the last 3 pages, probably before the end of the year, if you can believe it. It's kind of wild. I mean, it is. It's just, I was looking over everything today. If I'm not mistaken, I have maybe 11 scenes left to go, like total. Okay. Now, total meaning of the 24 pages of storyboards that I have on my wall. Why do I give that caveat? Well, because there is something I want to go back and add to an earlier part of the cartoon that I have yet to mess around with. I don't think it'll add too much more drawing time, but it is something that I do want to add. I've thought about it long and hard. It's like a montage sequence. I haven't even storyboarded it yet, and I do want to go back and add that in. But at the time that I originally thought about adding that, I toyed with whether or not I wanted to like stop everything and start making that part now, or do I want to push it to the end? And I decided to push it to the end because I feel like the momentum of getting through these storyboard pages is really helping me, and I want to kind of roll with that. And if I go and add new stuff, I think I'll have a better feeling about like how fast things are going if I wait till all of the boards are done, because then it's like, oh, I did 24 pages of storyboards as an animation. Like being able to say that to myself when I go back and add something new, it'll feel like, oh, this is just adding a little bonus. But if I would have stopped everything in the middle of the cartoon and started adding that in, it would have kind of made it feel like the end is even further away. And I just didn't want to do that to myself. So that's why I'm doing it this way. But of the boards on my wall, I think I've got maybe 11 scenes left. That is a crazy thing to be able to say to you guys. 11 scenes left. Well, scene 55 is kind of a big one. This is where kind of the rubber meets the road, really. This is like where the big conflict happens. This is where the customer gets in the face of new guy and he starts to tell him off. And it's like a big part of the conflict. And so I kind of choreographed it differently in my head recently than I did on the boards. On the boards, I only have him, like, it's a really, really simple drawing. Actually, I'll show you what the board looks like, and I'll tell you how I'm changing it. I know it's a spoiler alert, but oh well, I'm spoiling what happens in a cartoon. So in the boards, this is all I have for scene 55. I know it says 60 right there. I know. The numbers don't match up anymore because, well, things changed. Scenes got merged together, and so the numbers changed. Anyway, so this right here, this is sort of the idea behind the scene, but it's no longer exactly how I'm going to be depicting it. I'm changing the angle of the camera. I'm pretty sure I've got the angle that I want on my drawing table right now, and I'll show you that in a moment. But I actually added a bit of crazy choreography. I want to tell you guys about it. I'm pretty excited about it. It's it's more elaborate than I thought I was going to go, but because it's this big climax moment, I want to build up the tension and have more motion on screen. I think it has the potential to be, one of the most interesting things to look at in the whole cartoon. So basically, the customer is really upset, and he's a short little guy. And new guy, who is his salesperson, is like this really tall guy. So, or tall by comparison anyway. So the customer is going to start like stomping toward new guy. And what's the line? He says, if it is a different color, then it isn't the same now, is it? And then he says, is it? Again. Well, I want to have new guy get so nervous that because he's holding the laptop box from the previous scene. I want to have him get nervous and kind of like fumble the box and then drop the box. And then as the customer's marching toward new guy, he's going to step up on the box, on the laptop box, which is of course like another act of disrespect. But he's going to do that so that he has height leverage. Maybe he won't be taller than new guy, but he will get up to the height of new guy because he's standing on the box. And I want him to, like, from standing on the box, then lean in toward new guy. And then new guy in reaction is going to bend all the way back. And so you've got this short guy intimidating my main character by getting in his face and causing him to bend backwards. So that's the scene. And I looked at I added the dialogue onto my timeline. That's what I always do first. If there's dialogue, I add it there first and try to get an idea of like how many seconds will this be. It helps me to like place in my mind, like I know, okay, so it's going to be this many seconds, so I'm going to need to kind of break it down here and here and here or whatever. So now I know that scene 55 is probably going to be about 7 seconds long. It's been nice these past month and a half, 2 months, whatever it's been, because I've only had 2-second or 3-second scenes. It's made it a little bit easier on me. Now I've got a 7-second scene, which is not terrible, but now we're kind of getting up there a little bit again. And we've got 2 characters on screen moving at the same time, so I'm gonna have to move them separately. Like I'm gonna draw them separately, and then I'll have to like merge them, layer them over top of each other on my computer and composite them. So I'm hoping I can get that scene, the one I'm just starting today. I'm hoping I can get this scene done before the end of the year. I mean, I think that's pretty reasonable for me to have that as a goal. I like to set reasonable goals. That way, when I hit them, I feel like I can pat myself on the back. So that's a little trick. I can tell you guys, I give myself very, very reasonable goals. I'm also very, very hard on myself, and I'm often a major critic of what I do. So I think like the juxtaposition between that and giving myself easy goals, it balances out a little bit, because on the one hand, I have a lot of like negative talk or a lot of high bars that I have to reach. But on the other hand, I set these goals that are really reasonable time-wise. And so then I can kind of build myself back up. I don't know. There's a psychology moment for you, I guess. Oh, you guys are chatting. You guys are chatting here. Let's see. Stray Kid said, my sister decided to play Christmas music before it's December, and it's annoying the heck out of me. Oh, no, we have an early Christmas music player. That's unfortunate. Marks is here. Hi, Marks109. He says, sorry, I'm late. That's okay. You don't have to apologize at all. I have a heart on Facebook from Shane Campos. Hello, Shane. Good to have you here. Let's see. We've got John Hughes saying, hey, Erilyn is here with my brother and with Carl and his brother. Okay, hello. Hi, everybody. Hi, Carl and John and Erilyn, and Carl's brother. Let's see. Stray Kid says, the same thing. Same thing twice. Okay. And then Erilyn says, the gang is all watching here in Travis Heights. Well, good. Well, hello, everybody in Travis Heights. Thanks for tuning in and hanging out with me. I'm just doing a little bit of chit-chatting tonight. I'll probably do a little bit of drawing here pretty soon. But, I like to sort of catch up with people. And some weeks I'm more talkative, and some weeks I just do a lot of drawing and kind of keep to myself. But tonight I'm feeling more chatty. Anyway, well, I'll show you kind of what my plan is for the new scene. This is for scene 55. So I'm actually going to turn the camera toward my drawing table now, since this is seems like a pretty good time to do this. Okay, so now I'm also doing a simulcast on a vertical live stream. So some of you guys are watching on your phone and you're watching vertically, and so the reason why I'm maybe positioning this in a way that you weren't expecting is because I have to make sure that people on their phones can see it also. So please bear with me as I attempt to do that. All right, let's get this. Let's kind of turn this a bit. Okay. All right, so this is my current drawing table situation. All right, so when I say I'm layering things, this is what I'm talking about. So I've got new guy right here, and now his back is facing us. This is actually like the inverse shot from a previous scene, from scene 53. So on scene 53, we can actually see new guy. This is new guy. We can see him from the front, and he's holding this laptop box, which you really can't see very well here, but we saw it in the previous scene. So now we're like the camera switches and goes behind him, because we're going to be focusing on the customer, who I'm in the process of drawing here. I haven't finished him yet, but you can kind of see how, if I turn my light on, how it kind of, it blinds you. Just give my light a chance to Wait, how do I? Well, I thought I could probably show you that, but it's not really working, is it? All right, so let's turn that off. We'll try it a different way. So I'll just pick both of these up. All right, so you can kind of see like how they're layered. So actually, if I flip it around, if I flip this around like this, you can kind of see, you sort of can see through the paper a little bit, and you can see the customer standing there, right? So that's kind of what I'll be doing is I'll be drawing them. Each one of them will have their own separate actions on different paper like this, and then I'll bring it into my computer and I'll kind of move it around like this to sort of see where, you know, where's the best position to have him, so that you can see both characters, but maybe one is overlapping the other. Um, that's what I use the computer for. As far as animation goes, I don't animate on the computer. I composite on the computer. So my drawing is done on paper. My compositing is done digitally. That's sort of my process. Those of you that are watching me who have not seen what I do before, yes, I am animating on paper. This paper is what is known as 10 field. That's what the type of paper, or the shape of the paper is 10 field. Refers to the number of inches if you were to measure it. It's 10 inches wide. So that's where they get 10 field from. Actually, if I take my little ruler right here and I hold it up to the paper, I think it's, is it measured? Which way is it measured? Yeah, it's got to be measured. It has to do probably with this horizontal line, because it's slightly bigger than 10 inches. It's actually like 11 inches, but I think it has to do with the area that actually gets seen on screen. Anyway, this is 10 field. I didn't mean to get all technical on you. So that's the paper, and then I use this color erase pencil, this blue color erase pencil from Samford. I've been using these for a while. There is a reason for using blue. There is a reason. It no longer applies to what I'm doing. I just sort of like drawing in blue. You could argue that I'm making more work for myself later, because I'm going to have to make these drawings appear as if they are grayscale, which is something that I'll just do digitally. But I like drawing in blue. I don't. The original reason that it started has to do with traditional animation uses a number of different colored pencils. The base sketch is usually something like in blue, and then there's action lines or something like that that are done in red, and then there's black over top of that when you're doing cleanup. I guess it depends on the individual, but usually a final drawing will have different colors of colored pencil. And the way they would do it back when animation was done on paper is they would take the final drawing, which would have all these different colors of it, and they would give it to the ink and paint department, which at Disney was, if I'm not mistaken, completely all women, the ink and paint department. And they would give them those drawings, and they would put a piece of acetate over top of the drawing. And acetate is like, imagine if I had another piece of paper like this, but instead of being opaque and white, imagine if it was like a clear piece of cellophane, but thicker. So they would put a piece of acetate over top of the drawing, and then the ink and paint department would sort of follow the lines as like guidelines, and they would paint, but they would paint directly onto the plastic, onto the acetate, so that the final image that they would photograph for the film, they would only photograph the acetate. So there's none of the work lines, none of the erasing marks, none of the notes that would be on the side of the paper. None of that stuff would be in the cartoon. You would only take a picture with the camera of just the painted part. And then they would lay that painted part, that because the background behind the character was all clear, right? Because it's a clear piece of acetate. So that was all clear. So you would place that acetate over top of a painted background. So it's another, it's a painting, right? And then you put that down first, and then on top of that you would put your acetate with your character, and it would look like they were layered over top of the background. And then you would take a picture of that and then you would just keep swapping out acetate paintings. You just keep swapping that out, and then over time that would make your film. Now that would get more complicated if you had a background that was moving. If the character was like walking from left to right and you wanted the background to be moving, you would have to move the background a little bit, and they would paint these backgrounds on a very, very long I don't remember what the surface was. Maybe it was acetate for that too. I don't know. I don't think it had to be though. It could be anything. So they would make a background on a very long piece of material, and then that way you could sort of like move it a little bit and keep moving it because the background was so long. It was one big image, but they just would move it just a little bit. So that's kind of how they did that. And in many ways, I think of it as a form of stop motion animation, but instead of moving a puppet or a doll or a clay figurine, you're moving paper or you're moving acetate. Anyway, all that to say, I'm sort of doing it the traditional way. If I was really doing it 100% traditionally, you could argue that I would be painting on acetate, and I'm not doing that. Obviously, I'll be compositing and then adding color and all that stuff. I'll be doing that on the computer, but I will probably have to go back into all my drawings and clean up the drawings and then re-scan them. That's a process I haven't figured out yet, and I'm developing, as much as I'm developing this film, I'm also developing my own animation pipeline. And if you're new to the terminology that I'm using, a pipeline has to do with think of like an assembly line. It's basically the process by which a film starts out and then goes through all the steps before it becomes a film on the other end. So since it is just me doing this, I mean, I did have voice actors, and I am going to bring on a composer for the music. But as far as all the visuals are concerned, I'm a team of one person. So I have to develop my own pipeline and give myself like my own process and steps. And the idea is once I get the process down, then I can like lather, rinse, repeat, and then things start getting easier as they go, in theory. Thanks for the like on Facebook from Ernesto Facone. Thank you so much. I appreciate the like. And thank you guys, by the way, for giving me a thumbs up over on YouTube. I do appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed already, I would love a subscribe to my channel. It does help me grow the channel quite a bit. And if you're like, Phil, I love all this behind the scenes stuff, but I don't like social media. I don't like Facebook. Is there any way I can keep up with you besides those methods? Yes, there is a way you can do that. You just go to retailsunshine.com and you can follow me there for free. You can also support me there financially if you want, but you can do it for free as well. And if you are on Facebook, I would love to encourage you to go and search Retail Sunshine on Facebook, because there is a page there that I would love for you to follow, because it is getting very close to 1,000 followers on Facebook, which is very exciting. I think it's like 962 right now. It's getting really close. So that's a very exciting milestone. I don't know what I will do when I hit that milestone, but I would love to hit it very soon. So anyway, that's enough of that. I guess what I'll do now is I'm just going to do a little bit of doodling here, because when it's the beginning stages of a new scene, I'm going to be coming clean with you guys here and tell you something. Typically, I try to give myself some busy work that I can do while I'm on camera with you guys. So part of the reason why I'm talking so much tonight is not just because I'm feeling talkative. It is also because I did not give myself busy work. I have a little bit of busy work here, but not a lot. And I know you're probably thinking, what are you talking about? You have a whole new scene to draw. Why don't you have busy work? Well, the reason is the beginning stages of any time I start a new scene, it's a lot of me sitting at my desk thinking and procrastinating, but you could argue that my procrastinating is also while I'm doing my thinking. And sometimes I stand up and I act things out in front of a mirror, and I take pictures of myself with my phone and try to get the right angle. It's a lot of like figuring stuff out. It's not very exciting to do on camera with you guys because I don't, it wouldn't fit on screen. I'd be like off camera a bunch and I'd be sitting here thinking a lot. So I don't have a whole lot set up for me to just jump in on. I am going to try to finish this drawing and see what I can do from there. But the reality is we are at the very beginning stages of scene 55. So I'm still trying to figure that out. Okay. All that being said, I do know what this drawing is going to be. So I'm going to try to work on this one a little bit and see if I can get this going where I want. And then we will go from there and see how things go. But by this time next week, Friday of next week, I anticipate being fully into scene 55, and then I should have some things sort of like lined up for me to work on at that point. So, all right, last I remember, I've got new guy, or the customer has his arms folded, and let me go ahead and pull up my, I guess I could probably share my screen. Let me see if I can do that. You know what? I wasn't going to share my screen, but let me see if I can. How do I do that? How do I share my screen? Yeah, okay. All right. I don't normally do this. But all right. So what's the best way to do this? Okay. So well, this is kind of cool. I haven't really done this. I haven't really messed with this too much. So what you're seeing there, that other window, that's my animation timeline. The blue and white bar in the middle of the screen are representing all the different frames of animation. The green bars below that represent sound, in this case, dialogue, not sound effects or music. I don't have a lot of that yet. I don't have any of the music yet. But I do have that window there. And so I'm going to put that up for reference just because it's going to help me with drawing this image. If I have him there. Sometimes I just need a quick little glance just to sort of get an idea of what I was doing. Let me see if I can turn my music on a little bit. Okay. Okay. I think I got it. Now, the reason why I take my time with these early drawings, the reason why I take my time. Oh, hey, Karen's here. Hello, Karen. Over on Facebook. So the reason why I take my time with these early drawings when I'm blocking out a brand new scene is because these drawings are foundational drawings. They're drawings that I'm going to be basing the rest of what I do in the scene off of these. So if these aren't correct, then whatever I do after it is going to get thrown way off base, and then I have to go back and fix even more. So I have found that, like, I don't love how slow I am in the beginning process, but the more that I prepare a scene and the more I'm like solid in getting my my keyframes drawn. That's what this is, a keyframe. The more I do that, the better that the process goes the rest of the scene, because then I've laid my foundation and I'm just kind of building on top of the foundation. So this is a keyframe drawing. This is a keyframe drawing. Both characters now have their starting positions. And part of why I'm drawing them on separate pages is because I don't fully know where I want them to line up. But also, if I'm going to draw this character animating, I don't want to be drawing like parts of him. I want to draw the whole character. And then later, new guy will be standing in front of him and he can like obfuscate part of his body. That's fine. I don't mind that. It'll kind of like lend credence to them being two, fully rounded characters sharing a space. So, so that is my arms folded version of the customer, and then this is new guy holding the laptop and showing it to the customer, and what he's trying to do is to tell him that, like, hey, this is still the laptop you want, even though the color is different. This is still what you came in for. And this whole scene now is going to be about the customer marching and stomping whatever toward new guy and making new guy get nervous and back further and further away. That's also why I started them so far on this side of the page, is because the rest of this scene, new guy is going to be like walking backwards and like getting like walking further and further to the right. I don't know if he'll ever get all the way to the other side, but maybe pretty close. And then the customer is going to be walking on a diagonal toward him more and more and more. So the action of this scene is going to be, I probably could have started both of them. I probably could have drew them over here and given myself even more runway, but I didn't for whatever reason. And that's fine. I find that like this part of the paper doesn't usually make it onto the screen anyway. Or this parts of it gets cropped off anyway. So it'll work. I'll make it work. Karen says, would you use your keyframes in other scenes? Well, the only time I would use a keyframe, no, I guess I wouldn't. Well, I'll tell you one example recently that kind of fits what you're asking me. So I think it was like scene 51. I think it was maybe scene 49 and 51 or something like that. 49 ended with a shot of the customer with his arms folded, but it was really, really close to the camera. And then we cut away to new guy doing his thing, and we cut back. And when we came back, what I did was I took the last frame of the customer with his arms folded, and I made that the first frame of the next scene. So I treated the last frame as like the beginning of the next thing that I did. That's about the closest I've ever really gotten to doing that, I think. But no, I don't really use or reuse drawings. There's very, very little that I've reused. The only other thing that I would say that gets kind of reused, and I don't do it very much because I'm not really a big fan of doing it unless it's an appropriate place to do it, then I will. But if I'm doing a loop, like a looping animation, which is typically like a walk cycle or a run cycle where a character is like walking from, left to right or right to left or whatever. If a character is doing a repetitive motion like that, I will reuse drawings then, because if it's only 5 drawings, it might get the character from here to here, and it's not like far enough to get them to the other side of the screen. So once you get them to here, then you take those same 5 to 7 or 8 drawings and you start playing them again from here going that way, and that way you cover the whole length of the screen. So I have done that. I haven't done it very much though. There is a part earlier in the cartoon where we meet the tech gal at the front of the store, and I have her kind of like behind a desktop computer tower, and she's like spraying a can of compressed air, and she's kind of like doing this motion. Well, she's sort of in the background. She's not really the focal point of that scene. And so I just needed her to be doing something repetitive. So I think I only drew like, I don't know, 5 to 7 drawings of her spraying this can of compressed air. You can't even really see her the whole time. You're just seeing like part of her because the computer is blocking her face. But she's behind there and she's just doing this kind of arm motion. And so I did reuse frames there. But again, it was a background element. Sometimes other background elements in a scene right before that one, there's a oscillating fan, and it's in the background, and it's the same motion, is just spinning back and forth, right? So I use that over and over again, but again, it makes sense to do it, right? Because that's what a fan would do. A fan would oscillate. I shouldn't have to redraw that over and over again if I want the action to be mechanical. And so that's sort of, those are the questions I ask myself if I'm going to reuse drawings. Is the motion mechanical? Is it something that should be repeated? Is it something that if it's repeated, it would still visually read to the audience as something that makes sense? Because you can't always repeat motion and have it make sense to the story. It has to be like specifically making sense as a thing that would do that. Otherwise, it makes the audience go, why is that person, standing back and forth and like dancing back and forth, whatever. But that's actually a good example of when you would want to do that, right? If you have characters that are at a dance, think like the Peanuts characters and the dance that they're kind of most known for. You could have a character dancing back and forth, and if you animate it right, it doesn't look weird that you repeat it, because people tend to do that. If they dance, they'll kind of do the same dance back and forth. And then if you play it to music, it sort of looks like they're just dancing along to the music. They're not redrawing those frames over and over again. They're just reusing animation. If you look at a lot of Saturday morning cartoons from Hanna-Barbera, from like the 60s, or, just a lot of TV cartoons from that era, you'll see a lot of reused animation, but that was because they had incredibly limited budgets, and they had deadlines they had to meet. So you had to be able to milk as much time out of the drawings that you had, without spending more time making new drawings. That was sort of like the only way to make that happen. So it was more like a business of economy of line. How much can we get away with without having to draw more of it? This project, I don't have that problem. I don't have an ultimate timetable. I don't have any kind of like budget that I'm trying to stay under. I'm just going until I'm done with it. I'm still trying to be economical where I see it making sense, I guess, but I'm not like obsessing about that, because to me, I actually want things to look interesting, and I find that the best way to make something look interesting is for it to be varied, right? Variety, as they say, is the spice of life. So I find that if I can come up with a new and creative way of showing something, then I'm going to draw it in a different way, because it's more interesting to the audience. And when I say audience, I'm including myself in that, because I want to be able to watch it and be proud of what I made and be able to look at it and be entertained by it. But B, if I'm drawing something, I'm more interested and I'm more invested in the outcome if I'm trying to achieve something, usually something that I haven't done before, versus just like, doing the same thing over and over again. That gets really like hard to enjoy if you're doing the same thing over and over again. And animation is a very repetitive process. So yeah, you kind of have to be okay with repetition. You try to, or at least I try to find something interesting in every scene, and that way it keeps my mind engaged. And then like every time I look at a new scene, my brain is like, searching for what's different and things like that. I just think it's a better deal for the audience and for the artist, to try to create new work and not get overly repetitive. I know you didn't ask me about all that. That's a bit long-winded, but that's sort of my feeling on reusing drawings in animation. So anyway, that was kind of all I plan on drawing tonight, because I really do need to block out what his next steps are going to be, and I don't know what they are yet. I don't want to sit here and try to like force myself to answer those questions on camera. So because I'm not going to try to do that, I am going to turn my camera back around. Karen says, no, it's cool. Okay, good. Well, I'm glad it's cool. I'm glad I at least answered your question. I do get that question from time to time, and typically the reason why people ask me that question is people seem very invested in whether or not I can finish the cartoon sooner rather than later. I don't really know why. I guess people are just sorry about that. Try to get this there we go. I guess people are just really eager for me to finish it. I guess that's the reason. I keep forgetting which is the right button to push for. Yeah, we'll do that. That's probably better, right? Is that better? There we go. I was trying to figure out how do I get full screen again. That's what it was. I need to remember that for next time. People ask me that question because they're like, I want to watch it when it's done. It's like, yeah, I get that. But you'll really like it a lot better if it looks good, right? I'm happy to report that I'm like the total film. I'm at about the 5 minute 41 second mark or something like that. My goal is to have a 7 minute cartoon. I don't know if it's going to be 7 minutes. I have added up the remaining, even if, okay, let's just pretend that I mentioned earlier I have like 11 scenes left to go, right? Let's pretend, now I know this isn't the case because I just told you scene 55 is going to be like 7 seconds long, but let's just pretend that my remaining 11 scenes are only 3 seconds each, because that's like my average, okay? That's still 33 seconds, okay? If you take 33 and you add it to 5 minutes and 41 seconds, that puts me into the 6 minute and 15 second arena, okay? But then you take into account that I don't know that all of these scenes are going to be 3 seconds. In fact, I know that they're going to be, some will be longer. Well, now it's probably looking more likely close to 6.5 minutes, right? Then you take into account that I have this montage that I haven't even storyboarded yet, so I don't even know how long that's going to be, but I anticipate that that section will be maybe about 20 seconds, okay? So now we're looking at like, what, 6 minutes and 50 seconds, okay? And then there's like a really, really brief section in the very beginning that I want to add that is just going to be probably not a lot of drawing, but basically still shots of the store in darkness. And then like I'll take that image and composite it differently and make it look like the lights are on. because I want to show different parts of the store that are like dark and then lit and then dark and then lit. Like the store is, you know, everybody is opening up the store. That's how I want the cartoon to start. Well, I don't know how many seconds that's going to take either, but my point is you add all that together and it's looking pretty close to 7 minutes. I'm not saying it has to be 7 minutes, but if I could get a 7-minute short in total, I'd be very, very happy, because a lot of the old Looney Tunes cartoons and a lot of the Disney animated features, or sorry, Disney animated featurettes or shorts, a lot of those were around the 7-minute mark or exactly 7 minutes, and it'd be kind of nice to make something that would be sort of in the spirit of those. Karen says, I was thinking it might be more efficient or maybe better use of time. Can keyframes be used as storyboard? Well, I'm not sure I know what you mean, but the storyboard gets made first, so the keyframes come afterwards. Now, maybe you're asking, can I use my storyboard drawings as my keyframes? And if you're asking that, the answer is kind of, because I will look at my storyboards and I will go, okay, I know I want the character standing there like that, but okay, that is what you're asking. Okay, well, so kind of, I mean, I know I want the character standing like that, but I'm not gonna use these drawings. There's not really a way to do that. I made this drawing really small. I'm gonna draw it differently on the paper, so I can't exactly use them, but what I will do is I will look at them and go, yeah, that still feels right to me, and then I'll just look at it and like draw it bigger or whatever on the paper. And so I use it as my foundation of what I'm telling myself I'll be drawing. The problem is, not all the time, but there have been a number of times where I'll look at my storyboards and then I sit down and I start thinking through the scene, and I go, you know what? I don't think I like where the way I drew that on the storyboard. I don't like it exactly. I want the camera to be somewhere else, maybe turned a little bit differently. And so now I have to kind of come up with something on the fly. Anyway, so things, you have to be willing to be flexible if you can think of a better way to tell the story. If a better idea comes to you, then the storyboard should really just be a jumping off point. It should not be like law. You shouldn't be like, well, I have it this way in the boards, I have to follow the boards. No, the boards are a guide, but if you come up with something better, by all means, stray from the boards. And I have done that a number of times, and in my opinion, I've come up with better stuff later on. But you need the boards just to sort of have something to work off of as a default. Anyway, I've gone over an hour, but I really appreciate the questions from Karen Young. Thank you for that. And over on Facebook, thank you so much. And then just as a reminder, again, got Black Friday coming up and holiday times are coming up. So if you don't already have a copy of Everything Must Go, which is the ultimate retail sunshine book, you can get your copy from bookpeople.com. Just search my name or search Retail Sunshine on bookpeople.com. It'll pop right up. It makes a great gift. It is the biggest retail sunshine book I've ever made. It's only about 1.5 years old, roughly. And it is, in truth, the foundation for how I came up with what I'm animating. It is based on the characters and stories and the comics inside that book. And actually, fun fact, I will point this out as well. There is a story in the book called Orientation. It's kind of an origin story of New Guy, sort of. Yeah, actually, it is an origin story. So fun fact about that: New Ad Day, the cartoon I'm animating, takes place, if you're keeping track of the official timeline, takes place 1 week after Orientation. So there is kind of an official timeline in Retail Sunshine. At the very minimum, the official timeline is orientation, and then 1 week later is new ad day. So I don't know if there's anything else that follows that timeline really, but just thought I'd share that with you. I think it's fun. Good night to Marks109 over on YouTube. Thanks for saying hi and hanging out. And thanks to you guys for being here again. I really appreciate you. I'll see you back here next Friday as always. It is Black Friday, but I'll be here after I do my shopping. Okay. Happy holidays to you, Karen Young. I appreciate you being here. Thanks so much. Thanks everyone else for hanging out. Have a wonderful, safe weekend. Happy Thanksgiving. I almost forgot to say it. Happy Thanksgiving. Oh, and bye from Dallas to Baby Got Bakshi. What a great name. Over on YouTube. Bye. Have a good rest of your night, everybody.